Hi, Ferenc.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm well.
Get
really
ready.
well.
Getting ready for the 125-kilometer death race. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the fact that you said death race, it's really, they make it sound like that.
I would die.
Yeah, you'd probably, no you wouldn't, you'd stop.
Oh, okay. Well, that's true.
Because you've got a lot of systems in your body that prevent you from dying, something like that. It's really hard to do. But I think the death race, the idea of it is far more just to make it extravagant. 125K is a fair distance, any way you slice it. There's 3 mountain summits in it, 17,000 vertical feet, elevation gain and loss. So there's a little bit of preparation that has to be into it.
So
Yeah.
if you compare that to like Mount Benson, Benson's what for elevation top to bottom? Like Benson, if they were to do like a Benson grind or something like that.
Yeah, it's about 800 meters.
Okay,
So yeah.
So about
Benson
5
is to the top 3K,
Mhm.
3.5K, and then down. So it's a round trip 6 to 8K depending on which route you take.
Right. And
So
the
we're
race
talking 125K with 3 mountain summits with 17,000 vertical feet. So there's a difference there to some degree.
Mhm.
It's really the same thing though. It's fascinating. It's the same thing. We'll talk a little bit about that.
How so? Why is it the same thing?
It's just a human being doing what we're designed to do.
Okay.
And so as you're designed to walk and to eat and drink and breathe, you're designed to run. Everybody's designed to run. We're actually often say to my athletes and my patients, we're designed to need what running gives us.
Right.
Right? You're not designed to need what violin gives you, although you can become very good at it. And I know some marvelous violin players, and I've heard amazing violin all over the world. But you're not designed to need what violin gives you. Running's different.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that concept, if that's what it is, then it is really the same thing. It's just a matter of preparation.
So speaking of preparation,
Yeah.
because that's the big thing. Like when I started running last year,
You've done well.
I
I'm really proud of you.
I suck so bad at it. Oh my god.
No, it's sad. You did not suck really bad. It was just not something you were doing
Mm-hmm.
prior, right?
Right, but I also didn't know how to run.
No,
either.
that was true. That was true, and it is just a matter of understanding. That's all.
Right, but I don't think a lot of people know. Like it's funny because when I'm out running now and I see people running,
Mm-hmm.
their heel striking, their cadence is bad.
You know quite a bit now.
Well,
I know that's great. And it's not that complicated.
No, I know, but I
it's
ended
not
up
that
injuring
prevalent.
myself in the
Yes, you
process
did.
before I learned. And I had a running form analysis with you, and then you taught me how to run, and then I actually began to enjoy running because I didn't enjoy it. It was like it was a bit of a burden. I was hurt at the end, or I was pushing too hard, and it was more this idea around, if I push myself hard enough, the gains will come. And I think,
And you will feel better eventually.
yeah,
Hopefully.
hopefully,
they look like they really feel good when they do that. I really wish I could feel like that.
Yeah.
Right? That whole thing?
Yeah.
That's a bad plan.
totally,
It just doesn't work. No one feels good at that point with that kind of scenario.
right. But that's
So
the
how
thing.
do we do it properly?
Yeah.
That's the key thing.
So how do we do it?
Yeah, so I've really done this my entire life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're really good at what you do. And I really love what I do because I understand this really well. And I think the biggest how do you do this is when you have a little kid and you're starting them to walk, you don't yell at them, right? You give them a Mary Muscles or a jumping Jiminy or whatever those things are, doing, they're hanging from some thing, right? Or you hold them and the kids are stumbling along, right? That's the cool thing. And it's not, come on, walk. Although this seems like that's on some parents that are too keen. But there's just an adaptation. There's just a drawing in. There's a receiving. The kid's not paying attention to nothing at that point. No intentionality, nothing. Strictly exposed to something. that they are receiving as they are released into that kind of activity, right? And lo and behold, slowly there's a little more and a little more, wow, and there's really excitement on everyone's part about that. The child at that point doesn't force itself to walk while the parents are watching television or something. I'm going to really get this sucker down, right? And they don't grab their capacity either. There's just none of it. There's nothing to grab. Running is the same thing. So if I can bring someone, first of all, to understand what to do, and then to release the gifting that they have, or the release the physical capacity, and then to receive what the running will adapt into them. And it's seamless, flawless, and it's a beautiful thing. Doesn't matter who you are. That's the way we start. I know it sounds a little bit kind of out there, but really that's how I do it. And if I get someone brand new, someone says, I've never run before, I'd love to try this. I hear you, I will like this. I'm sure I won't, but I might. I love that because that's easy. We can start that person. They will love it 100% because they're designed for it. Okay? But then I get the person who's tried it before, has been hurt, has done a lot of it and powered through, just struggling through, and then finally given up. Who needs it? Right? Life's hard enough. Why would I go out and, go downhill skiing or something fun? It just makes no sense. At least on a bicycle, you can glide down a hill and you go, woo, right? But running, you can't. You stop. You stand there until you get home somehow. So you go, okay, how does that end up being fun or nice? But when you are into the releasing and receiving side, then it works really well.
It's funny because you talk about that. I remember when I got to the point where I was running like 10K on average, and I thought, well, let me see how fast I can do 10K. Let me push as hard as I can and run this 10K as hard as I can. And that sucked so bad. I burned myself out. I mean, I don't even think I finished the 10K or came really close at the end, but like I had no energy left. I didn't enjoy it. I was unhappy. I was sore. Right? And so one of the things that you taught me, and I know that you teach a lot, is around capacity. So can you talk about capacity and like running within your capacity?
Right. So we work in an adaptive zone. So you have cells in your body, 39 trillion cells, and they're all designed to do different jobs. They change all at the same time. They're not changing at the same rate. Okay? So all your cells are always changing. Doesn't matter how young or old you are, things are always getting better or worse. It just is. And we want to slowly bring the whole 39 trillion of you together further and get it better at whatever it's doing. Okay, just that concept of adaptation. So capacity is how hard you can do something or how far you can go. And generally speaking, the faster you do something or the harder you do something, the more energy that's required and the more challenge on different systems. And those systems may not be at the level that you're asking them to do. In fact, inevitably there's cell types in your body, whether they're the systems or the structures, anatomical structures, that are not as strong as other parts of you. And most people, when they start out, measure their capacity on the strongest parts of them. Okay? So if we're having a bunch of people have to make it from here to there, then the fastest ones get there first. But if the aim is to get the whole group from here to there and only count that length of time when they're all through, it makes no difference how fast the fastest person goes through. It matters how fast the slowest person gets through. And so the fastest person's best suited to help the slowest person go as fast as they can possibly do it. Does that make sense? So your cells, muscles, and so on, connective tissue, knees, all the various aspects of it, there's so much in that whole scenario, have to adapt. And capacity is something that is a cellular resilience to be loaded, as well as an aerobic capacity to transfer oxygen and fuel and stuff to muscles. So we're balancing that out all the time, and most people have a misconception that they should be able to do something when physically, structurally haven't adapted to it. They don't have the capacity. So the fact that they feel bad about doing it a certain way just means they're outside their capacity. It's not bad, it's not wrong, it's just inappropriate. And so my challenge to myself, this is something I always do, I never have a bad run. So, if you were to ask me at any time, so Ferenc, how was your run? I will never say, man, that was a crappy run. That was a tough run. I will not say that. Other people will, but I won't put myself in that position because I want to release and receive the adaptation, and it'll be based on the least capacity of my cells, the cells that are having the most challenge at that given day. Period. So I'm never over the top.
There's lots of times like when you start, when you're like, oh, I gotta run today, and you're like, I don't feel like running, But once you get going, it's okay.
Yeah.
So how do you motivate yourself to run? Because you have to run a ton right now to get ready for the 125, correct?
Yeah, the goal is to be exposing my body to the adaptive stimulus or the requirement as much as I can so that there will be changes, right? Because it is different than running Mount Benson, which is our local hill here. It's further, so we have to develop a body and a system that can handle that, right? But it is a motivation, I have to look at my why, like why am I doing it? That's the first thing. That's a big subject, the whole motivation, inspiration, why do you do things, right? That's a big subject. But very simply put, I have a little bit of a schedule. I'm fairly organic and flexible with things. I tend to go with the flow. But my bottom line is that I'm always maintaining that release and receive. I'm avoiding the push and the grab and the press and the grab and the force and the grab. And so I don't see it myself as a lack in myself or I'm being not good by not running. If I don't want to run, there's a reason. What's the reason? I'm just bagged right now. I just feel so. Well, why am I bagged? Well, I slept last night like 5 hours, I think, because okay, well then I have to deal with that. That's the rate limiting step. Not Ferenc, get out there for a run and get your thing. Come on, where are you, wiener? You know what I mean? Like that's highly inappropriate. I'm not going to force that. So I'm going to actually not go for a run. Actually, not go for a run. Say no, I'm not into it today. I'm going to think, but I do have to go to sleep earlier tonight. I'm going to have to catch up. So I need at least a few days of 8-9 hours sleep. And you know what's going to happen? 2 days from now, you know what? I'm really seriously ready for a run. Boom. Done. That's a release and receive right there.
Versus forcing.
Yeah, and I could say, you know what? Suck it up, princess. Let's get this party started. And you know what would happen? I would get out there after a little while. I'd feel, oh, this was good. I'm glad I did. And so there is that too, right? There is that too. But I'm really sensitive to what the limits are. Got to know the limits.
So what is the training schedule like to prepare for 125?
Wow. I will be doing, to not get complicated about it, I'm going to be building a base, an aerobic base, that allows my body to become fat adapted. We call it fat adaptation, which means that my body uses fat as its fuel, not sugar.
Right.
All right. So it's very effective. You can go long. There's much less inflammation involved. It's a different system. So in order to do that, I want to train at my aerobic threshold. So mainly burning fat at a fairly low heart rate, about 180 minus my age-ish. A little higher than that for me. There's different ways of establishing that aerobic threshold, but I'm keeping all my training at the aerobic threshold for basically 5 months. So I'm not going fast into that for 5 months. And I'm not going to go really hard up a hill or a mountain for 5 months. I'm going to be gauging it always back to my aerobic threshold, basically a heart rate that says, you're burning fat really well right now, Ferenc, keep it up. That's called base building. And once I've built the base, then I will probably do several 2-week cycles. We call them microcycles. for the remaining 3-4 months of times where I'm hammering. So it'll be 30 seconds full out as fast as I can go. Up a hill, on a strip, on a flat, and then full recovery, 2 minutes recovery, and then hammer it again. Do 4 of those or 5 of those and go. So that's going to work the high end of the capacity. And I'm going to build that then, because I built a big base on top of the base. So now in 125, when you get places where you need to have muscular resilience and strength, we've got that because we seriously hammered, put the pedal down for those fast pieces. There'll be box jumps, there's going to be squatting, strength building, that kind of thing, leaping, a lot of really fast downhill to work on elasticity and elastic recoil and resilience and so on, right? Scheduling wise, basically running 2 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off. And so in order to get the distance in the sense of getting ready for that long distance, anywhere, if you're going over like 80K in a non-stop run, in the sense of an event or a distance, you will want to have as your base at least about a 40K distance to be able to run 40K at one time. You can walk around, but still 40K. And in training for that, I will be doing 2 long runs a weekend.
Okay.
So basically it'll be they'll be very similar lengths. But what I'm doing is actually doing one of those on the road and one of those on mountains and trails. Right. So the road gives me the resilience of the highly repetitive, constantly hit. It takes a little less time. It's almost double the time on a mountain trail, but the mountain trail gives me that trail capacity and all the technical parts that we want to build in. So when I show up, it won't be, I sure hope this works. I'm just not into the sure hope it works thing, because that means you're already coming at it from kind of a Hail Mary pass type deal. And I really, if I'm going to expect all my athletes to come at this from a place of strength, then I have to too. So that's how we do it.
So essentially you're running 2 marathons every weekend.
Eventually, in the long, like very close to the end of the training, I'm going to be building to that. Right? So right now, doing about a 20-25K twice a weekend type thing.
And you're recording all of it. You're doing a whole video series explaining all.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. It is challenging to not give more information than people can handle. I've always found that difficult. It's called breaking someone's bridge, right? Where you put too much on it. Yeah. So I really hope that this will be helpful, because we're going to talk about individual things, even some of the things we're talking about here. We're going to be discussing that, how to do that well, why and what and how much and all that stuff. So yeah,
all the nutritional factors, how you eat.
Yeah, and that's different, right? So if you're fat adapted, you're going to fuel differently, you're going to prepare differently than if you're sugar adapted. And the two have a very different framework and a different resource base to go from. And you'll read different things in different books and all that kind of stuff. But I definitely have some key people who are, state of the art, top in their field, have been for a long time, that mentor me, and world class endurance and ultra event individuals. And the information's been there for many, many years. This isn't something new, but it's rare. And the difference between new and rare is that it's not been discovered lately, but it's something that is not used very much. Right? Most people are not fat adapted. Most people are sugar adapted. That's why most people have to use gels and all this kind of sugar, food and fuel and hydration and all that stuff. When fat adapted individuals dial that way back, almost eliminated completely.
Wow. So why are you doing all of this?
I don't know. I have to.
You have to?
No, I don't have to. Yeah, I think that's really important. If you're going to take anything on, and are you asking why running, or why the death race, or why I do this for a life, or what? What are you asking why?
So when I met you, you were really a chiropractor. You were working on that,
Sure.
and then we worked with you to help us out. Like one of the biggest questions I asked you was like, are you a runner or are you a chiropractor? Like what are you? I was trying to understand that. I couldn't, we were trying to figure that out for you. And now like we're watching your business grow on working more with running, and you're adding video work, and now you're doing the 125 kilometer race.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you feel that you're going through this transition at this point?
I think it's important for everybody to find out why they do what they do and why they're here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I know that has very little seemingly to do with running or whatever, but for me it's really important to know why I'm here, what I'm supposed to be doing here. And I think without a vision, the people perish. So there's just that sense of, if you don't know, what's your gifting, what has been designed into you to be released to the world around you. If you don't know that's a tough one. Because then how do you generate the enthusiasm and the motivation to go do that, right? Whether, you guys are photographer guys or whatever it is, that's the why. The gifting, the heart, and for me, my why is hope and healing. Like I really have a deep-seated desire to bring hope to people on every level, and to bring healing to people on every level. And the running is just a tool. Running is an area in my life that has always been there. I was always running to school because I was late. I was always running through the forest because I was bullied as a kid and was trying to escape the big guys, right? And stayed away for the most part. They didn't follow me too far. That was awesome. Anyways, most of those guys don't intimidate me anymore. But it was just part of the whole development of me physically. And and then now I don't train to do events. Events are an evaluative, enjoyable thing that I do on top of things. So one of the things that is very important, I find in people's journey, is they're either event-driven or process-driven. Okay. So event-driven has a lot hanging on an event. And there's stuff that you just can't see coming. And the event doesn't work for whatever reason. If you're an event-driven person, event-driven athlete, then it's going to really hurt badly. It's not going to go well. If you're a process-driven person and a process-driven athlete, a process-driven runner, let's dial it down, then the whole process is what you get good at. And you can take that into any event. Whether the event is successful or not doesn't define the process. The process itself is you and who you are and what you do. Right? So with that process focus, for me, an event like 125 or the 100K lights like just before it, or if I do 40, do the Victoria Marathon or whatever, those are events. I will do a lot of other distance stuff. We'll go running for 12 hours, 9 hours in the backcountry, hit several mountains, which most people would take 3 or 4 days to get to, 5 days to get to. We're going to get to in and out in a day. Just because it's so cool to cruise and be able to do that without gear and become part of your surroundings. It's just, I desire to be out there. That's why I train.
So you love the process.
I love the process and the event, right? But the process allows for the event. And everybody has a process, and nobody has an event like that says, I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to show up and, just show up. No one can do that successfully. So everyone has a process, but it depends on what you're looking at. If the process has value, which it does, if you can bring yourself to answer the why into the process, then you'll be successful. 100% every time. You could die in the middle of the process and you'd be completely content. Right? So how important is that? I mean, we see it in the seniors context in a big way, right? Where the biggest challenge for seniors is, I think, just watching my parents go through it, watching a lot of my patients go through this process. The ones that are successful are really good at the process. And you can take them out of that process at any point, and they'll be okay. In the sense of if they pass away or they suddenly crash in that process. But the ones that really struggle are the ones that have no process. And what then? I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm just putting it out there. My kids all smile and laugh because they're going to have to find me. They're going to have to hunt for me as an old man somewhere in the bush. They're going to use drones by then. Now they probably have heat stuff, but I've got ways of hiding body heat, so they won't find me. But anyways, sorry.
No, that's funny. So how do you fall in love with the process versus falling in love with like going for the event, but just going for the process?
Yeah. So the process. So you have to identify why you would do it, first of all. Then you have to find someone or some group that you see is enjoying the process. All right, that helps because we are cooperative beings, we are community beings, we need each other, right? And the whole developed world isolation model just sucks. It's highly ineffective at anything, right? When we bring people together, families together, individuals together, interest groups together, they always do well. Right? So
and they're all working towards a common goal.
And sure, for sure. So you have to figure out what it is you want to do and why you want to do it. And then, again, like I said earlier, that idea of releasing who you are, what you have, the resources, the person you are. Not the person you want to be, not the phantom you should be, not who you used to be when you were 25 or however young these guys are, whatever. Do you understand? But the actual moment of where you are, that place is where you start. And that's what I mean by releasing who you are. Lord, this is all I am. This is all I am. I'm bringing this. Can you use this? 100%. We make crazy things from that. We just need to have that immediate release. And then you just receive the result. That's how that works. And that's a successful process. And it's crazy when you actually are in that kind of process, how things start coming together. Because that grab, people like that. This forced and grab thing just leaves some kind of negativity to it. It really has. Even though it can be successful to some degree, there's limits to that.
Well, eventually you burn out because
you do. Somebody's going to burn out. Either the people that are watching that, or the people that are needed for that to happen, or the person who's pushing it. Somebody's not going to be happy with that.
And the body can come up with injuries because it's being forced and
that's why. And so fascinatingly, in the whole field of sports medicine and therapy and rehab and so on, I think there's this incessant need to say or to infer that something's wrong. Okay? So this muscle or this system's too short, too tight, too weak, too strong, and there's a plethora of protocols and flow charts and books written and videos made on how to avoid this and how to do it. Okay? And I'm not dissing any of it, although it sounds like it, but I'm not dissing it. But what's missing is that understanding prior to all of that there needs to be an adaptation, a healthy adaptive model where you're frequently challenging the system below the threshold of what it can handle and allowing it to adapt and proceed and get better and better and better.
Right. So instead of thinking that this system is wrong or something is going wrong here, that system is merely adapting.
It needs time to adapt.
Right.
So you can see, and this is a classic example, you'll see people with huge anomalies physically, right? Structurally, in the spine, in the joints, whatever, and they're totally fine. Now they move really weird and the whole thing, but it works. You can see someone completely symmetrical and even and all those things, even though that would be argued, but whatever. And they're constantly having problems.
Okay, so we were talking about releasing and receiving.
Yes, in the adaptive model.
In the adaptive model.
We're trying to get the body to adapt, and the idea that there are somehow mistakes in the body, in weaknesses or structural anomalies that are hindering this process.
Right.
And inevitably, true, there are issues like that, but the actual impact of those issues are far less, I believe, and I've seen this in my clinic for the last 30 years, than is the mistake in not adapting properly.
Right.
I think that's more of a procedural error than it is a structural error.
But it's also a mindset too, because if your mindset is that we're adapting and my body's adapting, then the progress that you're taking is not. When your progress starts to flatten, or maybe you're not feeling like you're going somewhere, it's just the body's adapting to where it's at, right?
And it doesn't adapt in a linear fashion either. When we measure adaptation, remember we talked about 39 trillion cells, they're all changing at the same time, but not at the same rate.
Right.
Okay, so you'll get consolidation of cells where body system structures, areas will develop, and eventually they get to a certain point where together they're really good now. So that may have been a plateaued phase where you're not getting faster. You're not. This is what it is, and you think, wow, is this all there is? All right, I hope to be a little faster than this. Da da da. And then you go again, and there's this whoop, and you actually go, wow, that was really good. I'm getting to be a big shooter, right? And then you expect that whoop to actually whoop whoop whoop, and it doesn't. It goes, okay, well, that's where we stay then for a little while. And so that stepping of development is also important to understand, right? And so when you are releasing who you are, and it's a re-release, that's the beauty of that whole approach, is that you don't just, in the very beginning, right? Scott decides, I'm going to Ferenc do the release thing. Okay, here I am, Scott, I'm going to run now, baby, bring it. And off you go. And, well, that was okay. And the next day you go a little faster, and you've timed the loop around my neighborhood now. So, I'm going to take maybe 30 seconds off or that last piece, I'm going to speed up. Well, any of that kind of stuff, right? You're not releasing anymore.
Right.
You stopped releasing. Now you're forcing and grabbing.
And you're comparing to yourself.
Yes, and so we have to make sure that release, to be really successful, you're always releasing. Every day you wake up, Lord, here I am. This is who I am. This is what I've got. What do you have for me? Who do you have for me? What do you have for me to do today? Where we're at, right? And then the beauty of that is that every re-entry is an appropriate place to start from, a place of strength. And that place of strength then allows for the appropriate next adaptive step.
Because it's interesting, it's almost counterintuitive to what you would think when it comes to motivation for yourself, right? So you're trying to motivate yourself. It can
be counterintuitive if you have a certain preconceived mindset of what this is supposed to look like. So a lot of people will take, let's say they start running. Let's say, you're starting to run and you sign up for a program. One of the local clubs, running stores, whatever, have a program. You want to make a change in your life. All right? Her running kind of is one of those highly efficient ways of doing it. What's her name? Started running. Look at her now. Wow. Kind of thing. Right? So the first little bit, everybody, right? And they all have almost a 50%, 70% attrition rate. Because if the thing is 8 to 12 weeks long, by the time week 1 or 2 or 3 comes in, they're done. Like, it's done. And considering many of them will come with extra fuel, or they'll be heavier than they need to be, and they'll come with some deconditioning involved, and some other stuff going on, maybe some hidden health challenges, that thing is going down. That's and it's not their fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just a missed opportunity on a daily basis, because it might take that person to get ready for a 10K 28 weeks. The program is 8 weeks long. So by the time 8 weeks are ready, you are going to be able to run 10K. Are you not excited? I'm excited, right? If that's the way it was going to happen. But it might be 11 weeks. So now we've pressed the system a little bit. Why? Like, nobody's getting paid for it. It's not like you're going to make a lot of money. No one's life depends on it. If it does, bring it. Rip your body to pieces. Go for it. But that's not the case for majority of the people that are going to be watching this or listening to us, right? So the majority of them just want to be successful. Hello. And so that's where that releasing is actually intuitive. Let's just go with where we are at. Let's go with where we're strong. And have goals. Goals are important because that moves us forward. That gives us something to build toward. I can't have a goal of, I'm going to run a 10K August 1st. But I actually have signed up for the Canadian Death Race 125K August 1st. So we're going to drive over to Grand Cache, Alberta, into the Rockies, and going to show up. And I'm going to say, is this a 10K? And they're going to say, no, Ferenc, this is 125K. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe I should try for that. And they're going to all have a little quiet huddle, and they're going to say, unfortunately, we're not going to, do you have this and this and this gear? No, I didn't know 10K is not going to take me that long. Unfortunately, we can't let you go.
Yeah.
And cellularly, it's the same thing. Unfortunately, we can't let you go. And so that's when your body goes, I'm out of here. Plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, runner's knee, iliotibial band syndrome, ITB stuff, even secondary stuff, shoulder stuff, neck stuff, back stuff, bursitis, sleep deprivation or sleep disturbance, indigestion, all that stuff, wounds that won't heal, coughs, repeated colds, immunity drop. That's all part of this whole scenario where we're taking a system, not from a place of strength, but a place of weakness, and we're forcing something out of it. Right? Why? Like, it's a beautiful thing to be able to smoothly run and have this flow of your body where you actually go into the air and then land, go into the air and then land, and just have that go and go and go and go is amazing. I mean, I gotta go for a run right now. Like, I can't sit here anymore. I'm just driving nuts. You need to go for a run. But you see, you have to want to go for a run.
Right.
You need what running has for you. All these people need what running has for them, but they want to receive what running has for them, or that activity has for them. And there's a lot of yoga and a lot of pursuits, mindful pursuits, shall we call them, all right? Intentional mindful pursuits that focus on that, right? That's the whole thing. And my next video is going to be about mindfulness and attending to that sense of awareness, because the running is exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. Is it Zen for me? No, I'm not a Buddhist, right? But it's that idea of being present, drawing in, of releasing who you are, drawing in what's given, releasing who you are, drawing in what's given. And once that strengthens, wow, you can just go further and eventually go faster.
It's funny because it's the same thing with working out. Like, you need to be mindful of what your body is feeling.
Very much so.
I think I tweaked my shoulder a little bit on that last set. I better take it a little easier.
Yeah, it's similar. The thing with running is there's high repetition, right, over a longer period of time. So if you're running, let's say, 10 minutes, each leg is going around anywhere from 700 to 900 times. All right? And very few people do 900 reps of anything in the gym.
Right.
So and that's only 10 minutes. And that's the walking. You have roughly about 60 steps per minute per leg. Okay? So even walking has a little bit to it. It's not the same as running.
I know, like even like right now, I'm in love with the process. The idea, like I get
Good.
out every morning and I go for
Good.
a nice little short run. They're not
Fabulous.
huge long runs.
No, they can't be. They don't need to
No.
be, right? It's beautiful. I love
But
that.
I'm just loving the process.
Yes.
So
Very good.
like I've got like 8s and 10s that I've got planned for this new year, and I want to plan to do the full marathon.
Wow.
For
Okay.
Thanksgiving, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
work
good.
up to that.
Sure. Oh, yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
I mean, what I found the most interesting part about running specifically was that when you start running, like I just wanted to get to a point where I'm like, okay, there's a rhythm. Oh, I'm in a rhythm. I'm breathing. Things are good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very good.
You know, to that aspect, and then you get into these longer distances. There's a certain aspect of meditation that occurs where you're in the zone and you're feeling it, but there's also a level of boredom too, where you're like,
There is.
like how long am I going to continue? Like I'm good, I can keep running, but like, you know, this idea of like allowing the mind to shut down from like thinking about all the other things that you need to do and creating a grocery list and what are some things that you do to keep yourself?
So it really depends on the type of person you are. Some people bore very easily. Some people can sit in a rocking chair in some, forsaken little Mexican town with a gas station in front of them just all day long. Do you get that picture, right? I think it varies depending on where you are in your process, aside from who you are, but where you are in your process. Sometimes music is a big help. I know some people who listen to podcasts, and they'll download a whole bunch of podcasts, and it's very productive in their context. There's people that do mind work, so they'll write speeches, or they'll, process information, or they'll come up with ideas. And so different things are different. I've done music. I tend to find music too enthusiastically enhancing. And I have to be careful right now. In my aerobic development phase, my aerobic threshold phase, not to go too fast. And so I find, because I'm running on heart rate with chest strap and so on, so I find with music, I'm going too fast almost all the time. Just cruise, just open it up, bring it, right? Foot loose. Not helpful right now. So, and I don't want to be drawn down by music either, any kind of dirgy, classical stuff. I don't want that either. So I tend to run silent. I use the time actually for different things, and I will break it up into sections, especially if we're going long, right? So some of it will be attentive to what I'm doing at the time. I've got kind of the 5 arrows of body form that I go through all the time to check my performance. I will assess my life. I know that sounds like a grand, but there's lots of material there, right? Help me with that. Relationships and so on. Lots of stuff to work on there. I will also say this is a creative time, Ferenc. We're out here and we're just cruising. So let's develop, and I'll have different areas that I'm working on. So let's come up with some ideas around this or that. And there I am, right? And I'm running along, and there's giant trees and ferns and lakes and stuff and mountains, and I'll stop and view, and there'll be a little bird that lands really close to me because he didn't know I was coming, and that kind of thing. So those are obvious additions, but I will break it up. So there's a lot of mind things. A lot of people say, I can't run, I'm bored. What they're saying is, I can't run, I'm bored because I don't know what to do with my brain. That's what they're saying. It's not a bad thing. It's just as a recognition, right? And in a culture where there is so little self-determinism as far as mind activity, it's very challenging for people to engage in a mindless, supposedly, activity where they don't have external source of stimulus.
Right.
When you think about it, right? So, and you want to find what your balance is, and it's something to work on. I will have music sometimes for part of it, right? We'll do part of it, and then this is going to be a silent time for the next hour. So if we're talking the death race, the cutoff is 24 hours. So we're doing much of it in the dark with a headlamp where you see nothing, right? And you'd be in the middle of nowhere. And there's only 350 of us in the 125. So there will be sections of time where there'll be nobody ahead of me, no one behind me that I can see, not even a light.
Right.
Just odd grizzly and the odd raccoon or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's lots of time. So you do, to prepare, you can't say, running long bores me. Okay, well, 24 hours, you are going to be stone cold bored and terrified, because now you can't control your mind. So when it gets dark and you're alone and some, subalpine area where there's critters and then suddenly they all want to eat you, even raccoons. It's the craziest feeling, right? You're running through this stuff, and then unless you live every day of your life in the forest, there is a sense of foreboding, because we're humans and we like, well lit, well protected areas to live in, to sleep in at least, right? I'm fortunate because I don't have a lot of that fear. I love being in the wild, and I love being in the wild at night. And when I see eyes, I think deer, not cougar type thing, right? So that's one of the challenges, though. Yeah. And you start small. You see, that's the thing. You start with a 10-minute run, a 15-minute run, and your mind will wander. Great, let it wander. It's not a bad thing. I try not to control my mind, because I'm releasing and receiving. So when there's things I'm thinking about, I say, okay, why are we thinking about this now? Okay, let's go there for a little bit. Brrr. I think we're done with that, don't you? Yeah, I think we're good. And over here, and now we're into something else. And then, wow. And then observation. Observation is really key. It's a very restorative activity to be an observer. So an observer in nature, an observer in activity, an observer in everything. That's a very good way to be. So you learn to observe. You learn to say, what kind of trees? Why are these trees all this kind here? What did they choose to grow here? Oh, look at, they're all branches are all going that way, and the thing's leaning that way. There must be a certain air movement. All those kind of things. It's just observing.
But there's also observing your own thoughts too.
Yes,
right?
yes. Self-observation and self-awareness. Those are all big parts of the development of the adaptive model, right? And so yeah.
So I know with me, I was very fortunate because I got into running at a point where I met you, and so that really helped me out.
We're not married, by the way. I just met.
So if I know Heidi is a big part of your life.
Yes.
But if you're interested in getting into running, or you have been running for a long time, what should they be doing on a regular basis to come see you about? Should it be? I know with the running form analysis is a big part of it.
Yeah, the running form analysis really is very important, and most people would see it as an extra initially, but once they actually experience what it's about, there are so many aha moments in that session where the activity of running is clarified and the body parts used are designated, and they actually have some things to work on and do. It's remarkable, and it's the best way to start any program. Doesn't matter how far you plan to go or what kind of process you want to engage in. It's just such a beautiful thing. We're working right now on being able to do that remotely, so when people can take a film of themselves, and then we can through Zoom or whatever medium talk over some things to work on. But that's the first thing. I think the beginning of what to do is the running form analysis. What to use and how hard to do it, that's more of an explanation of the training aspects, which we help people right off the bat. And as you've gathered from what we've talked about, the initial thrust is really just exposure. We just want to we want to be wanting to. We don't want to be needing to. Because as soon as you need to, you need to do so much stuff. And I really need to actually get going here. Do you understand? There's so much needing to do stuff. So we don't want that. I want it. Right? And it's fascinating. We spend so much time in our lives avoiding the things we don't want to do. We give a lot of effort to that. Things we don't want to be, don't want to do. And we don't spend enough effort doing the things that we inherently know we want to do. Things that are valuable, things that are restorative, things that are building. into our lives, and thereby extension the people around us, right? That's where that goes. That's the idea. It's not to become self-amazing. That who needs that? People hate people like that, right? Like, I mean, help me with that. Inevitably, what you need to have is something to give,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't give something unless you've received it.
Mm-hmm.
And you own it. And that's what we want to do in the very beginning of the running thing. So running form analysis, if you're local, then definitely come and give us a shout. But that's the first part. And then establishing some kind of goals, some kind of thing, and giving people a track to run on as far as scheduling and so on. Whether it's to run your first 10K or your best marathon or your first ultra or preparing for Ironman triathlon, whatever it is, those are all basically built the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to it. Are we good?
Yeah, this memory card's gonna run soon, so
Okay.
I can wave you down. I'll switch to the other one or whatever.
Okay. Okay. So.
If somebody has to listen to this whole thing, they're gonna run off the road.
Well,
The guy fell asleep. I don't know what happened. He was like just outside the airport on the highway there, and just veered off. The thing just drifts off to the right, and he just kept going straight. I don't know what happened. He was listening to a podcast at the time. Was that the running guy thing? It boxed thing, whatever.
I don't. Well,
Anyways.
I like when I run, I listen to podcasts normally.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and I find that it's because
Are we
otherwise,
still on? Okay.
because if I'm, there's times where I'll just not do it. But what I find really most interesting, especially when you see people at the gym or you see people running or whatever, they're still focusing on their phones or this aspect of their life. They're at the gym, they're taking a break, and they're going through their Facebook or their Instagram or whatever it is. And it's like an addiction that they've got to that instead of just taking their mind and focusing in the process of what they're doing. Just put that away.
That's
Until
another
later.
podcast.
That's another podcast.
Well,
we'll have
obviously, because that is a cultural thing that we've never had before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now I'm 58, 59. That's something we've never had before.
Right.
The accessibility, the addictive quality of that communicative device idea. Right? So in the world of running and preparation and so on, for a lot of people, if you take that away,
Mm-hmm.
it's more stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're going to have to go through detox in order to manage that well. So do I run with a cell phone? Yeah. I can tell when I go out of service because I'm often out of service because I'm going into wild places where there is no service.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then we're on our own. Then we're basically off the grid in a way. But people, my mom calls me. I have people by accident FaceTiming me. And I'm in the middle of, I'm at 9 Peaks right now, and you want to see what it's like? There it is, boom. How are you? Type thing. I don't see that as an intrusion.
Right.
Because it's so integrated in who I am and what I am, right? But I interestingly have no music on my phone. None. So, if I do, I have this little old Nano that I use that has the same playlist on it for the last 10 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting tired of it, so I don't even use it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have my phone with me, right?
Well, it's funny because there's an Instagram video I think of you, and you had your pole and you had your phone, and you're running like alongside of a cliff, and you're like, hey, this is me running a song, and I'm like, just put it down and run the cliff. You don't need to be that close to the edge.
We should actually put that. We should link that somehow so people can see that, because that's a really fun thing. And there's actually I do a little comment on that. That's when I run Mount Aerosmith. Just the idea of running edges and the idea of challenging oneself a little bit and tasting life. That's also a part of it that we haven't really touched on, but we will sometime.
Well, we're definitely gonna have you back because we could talk
fun.
for hours.
We could
about stuff. It's
We
pretty
could.
amazing.
So
So if folks want to run with you while you're practicing this,
I have people run with me often on runs. They run sections, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they may start with me and then peel off. They might meet me halfway through because I'm running usually a long time, and I'll double back through the trails and stuff, or run some roads together. I can always run slower. I just won't run faster.
right?
and so I'm fairly strict on that. And I think it's one of the biggest challenges that a lot of runners face is the dynamic around the social context of running, which is very important for a lot of people, and it's especially females. It tends to be a very strong bonding time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the modern day quilting thing, right, where they get to talk and just cruise. But it's inevitably suffering the risk of going too fast
Right.
for certain members of that group who want to be part of that group, who want to be talking. And quilting, you can quilt as fast or slow as you want. It makes no difference. Everybody's still in the same spot.
Yeah. You gotta
Running,
run
not
the
so
process.
much, right?
Mhm.
So I tend to always be very firm on how fast I'm running, in the sense that I won't run faster than my aerobic threshold right now, but I will run slower
Mhm.
because it's still working those tissues and those systems. It's just not, running a risk. So yeah, if people want to contact me and want to have a run, we'll be doing some off-road stuff. We'll be doing some off-road stuff through our Rapid Summit Adventures. So it's kind of a sub group that we can be contacted and guide, running mountain guide kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to that coming in the new season. A lot of snow in the mountains right now. 30 centimeters fell last night. So
Yeah,
kind of
Mount Washington's crazy.
So it draws down the sudden terrain. Right, we're gonna start. I feel like a cougar being forced down to the lowlands. But come the season, when it starts thawing out, which is pretty quick here on the island,
Mhm.
I'm going to be offering the capacity to have people hire us as mountain running guides to be able to go and do some beautiful stuff. So it's a
Mhm.
little faster than hiking. It's a run walk kind of thing.
Mhm.
So
Which is
that's
super cool. I thought.
Yeah,
that was
that's the Rapid Summit Adventures.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we gotta add that to your website.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it was doing your website and logo and branding. It was one of our more favorite, exciting things to do, because just helping understand what that process was for you and being in that process. That's my thing. I love that process.
Yeah, being helped through that process was very neat. I'm usually the one doing that for individuals. Right?
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what you're doing, what you're good at in life. You're going to be helping people. You're going to be guiding people. You're going to be sharing your gifting. Right?
Mhm.
And that's everybody's influencing everyone. It's just a matter of how intentional you are
Right.
and how good you're at doing it. And so for us as a clinic and me personally, it was really helpful to be guided well, and then to have, again, who I was more clearly released, and
Mhm.
that's what I felt over this last year. I'm really
Releasing
excited.
your gift.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this next year. We're going to have more opportunities to do it. We're going to team up further, and I'm thinking both of us, man, we can change the world.
Well, you can with all your running.
I'll run on ahead.
Yeah, you run ahead. I'll just run websites. It's all
You
good.
just run the tech. I
Yeah.
like that. Well done.
Well, thank you very much, friends.
Yeah, it was fun. We'll
Yeah.
have to do this again.
For sure.
I
We're
love
gonna
this.
totally be on the show. We're gonna talk about all sorts of things.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
No.
All the best.
Awesome. Thanks, Marius.
All right, well.